Hello, good morning, everyone, and I hope I'm audible. I'll be switching off my video in a short while. I just wanted to welcome everyone and then switch off the video. Uh, Maybe we are facing a bit of a bandwidth problem, and we will be uh, sorting it out soon. Hope all of you are safe and sound, and we all are going through a pandemic, and it has created quite a furor in our minds, and it's actually very difficult for every one of us to adapt and move on. And actually, as our head of the department was mentioning, I would have loved to see all of you live in front of me, but it's okay, it doesn't matter. And I thank our department, our management, and the college for giving us this opportunity to conduct a webinar on effective teaching. I'll be starting off with the presentation, and as I said, in case you have any queries, kindly put them in the chat box, and in between we will try to address them and have a kind of a discussion. At the end, again, we will be having a discussion. So I'll be switching off my video now, and we will go through the presentation. You will be able to hear me for the session. Now, today what we are going to discuss is why are teachers an important thread in the society, and various traits or characteristics that need to be possessed by a teacher. And these traits are not restricted only for offline teaching. I'm sure they are also required in the context of online teaching also. And then we'll try to have a discussion later on. Now, before I start, there are a few preliminary assumptions which I have made, and these preliminary assumptions are as follows. After graduating, you have an opportunity to join any profession, or maybe an industry and so on. But you have come to teaching the profession, or maybe some of you have planned to join this teaching profession by choice and not by chance. Okay, so you have willingly come, and now that you have taken up teaching, you want to continue in this profession and be as successful as possible. Then you have a flair for teaching and are passionate about it, because any activity, wherever you work, if you are not passionate about it, then the job is not going to be done in the right way. Then you all love what you are doing, and you all are happy. And as long as you are in the teaching profession, your main concern would be the welfare of the students. That is the main responsibility of teachers. And there is a desire with conviction to empower students to become good human beings and responsible citizens. Now, finally, in effect, this is what we need to look at. When our students pass out and they go out, no doubt, God has made a place for everyone. Everyone will get a job and so on. But what is their standing in the society in the years to come? How responsible they are, how good they are. This is something which has to be indirectly taught to the students when they are doing their undergraduation or any course for that matter. Now, why are teachers an important thread of the society? Because some of you may have gone through the statement of the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel. I think some lawyers, doctors, and other professionals went up to her and said, "Why is it that teachers are being paid more than us?" She said, "How is it that I can pay all those people who have taught you lesser than you?" That was the answer. Of course, situations and conditions are different here, but irrespective of the society, irrespective of the country, teachers will form an important thread of the society, because of the following reasons. So the role of the teacher in the society is very prominent, and the teachers are the main architects of the society, as they provide valuable guidance. Guidance in the form of not only teaching them the context of the syllabi, but also so many other things. The students are made to participate in curricular, extracurricular activities, and they are made to organize things, and so on. So finally, they are the stepping stones. They are the future of our nation. So in order to groom them, teachers are the main architects. Then teachers play a very crucial role in shaping the personality of the students and analyzing what their actual potential is. It happens many a times that when students come from, let's say, a rural background or from a vernacular medium and so on, during the first year or the first few semesters, they are very, very diffident. They are not very confident. But by the time they graduate and when they are going out, it shows in their personality, it shows in their behavior also that there has been a lot of value addition during their 4 years of the graduation part. So shaping of the student's personality is also very important. Then teaching is a noble profession. Everyone, right from the beginning, no, I myself come from a teaching family, so I know what kind of respect my parents earned, and if you are a good teacher, if you are a very compassionate teacher, then students actually love you. So teachers are expected to make more sacrifices than others. That is, generally in the society, if you go and tell someone that you are a teacher, you are looked upon as something higher than any other profession. However, there's a word of caution here that remuneration, promotion, scale band, college where you're working. There's so many other parameters. These are very, very sensitive and personal matters, and let's not talk about these things here. Our focus is mainly on finally how to become an effective teacher and what measures can be taken. Then teachers add value to the students' personality in the form of changing their attitude, behavior, etiquettes, soft skills, and any such traits. Okay, so I'll actually not be discussing it here, but there is something called as the ASK triangle, ASK, which stands for attitude, knowledge, and skills. Okay, so we have this attitude at the top, and we have seen so many such examples where students possess knowledge. They also have the skills, but unfortunately, because of poor attitude, bad attitude, they don't grow. No, they don't do well. Okay. Now another example probably is when we compare the cricketers Sachin Tendulkar and Vinod Kambli. Many a times people used to say that both of them are having the same kind of talent. That Sachin went way ahead of Vinod Kambli mainly because of attitude reasons is what experts say. Then hence it is imperative that teachers should be role models to the students. This is something which I always say that as a teacher, of course, when it comes to offline teaching, when we go into the classroom, at any given point of time, we'll be looking at only two eyes. Okay. But if the strength is about, say, 60, 65 students, then there are about 120 to 130 eyes which are looking at us. So teachers actually should be role models to the students. And in fact, if teachers have to become role models, then teachers themselves need a role model. Now, this is very important where teachers have to choose a role model. For example, we have a great personality like Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. We celebrate Teachers' Day in his name, and I hope that all of you know the story as to why his birthday is being celebrated as Teachers' Day. It's not necessary, as I said, that you have to have Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan sir only as your role model. You can pick even your own school teachers, college teachers, anybody who has influenced you, and you can emulate them and try to reach their level. But a role model, having a role model is very important. And these days, not only the students, but even teachers also don't have role models. Now, what are the attributes or traits of a good teacher? When we look at, okay, this teacher is good. When we say that this teacher is good, it is not just about teaching. Okay, so you can see that we play multiple roles. A speaker has to be kind, a teacher has to be speaker, learner, mentor, leader, expressive, patient, and the number of adjectives probably what a teacher has, no else profession has these many adjectives to describe them. So you can see this is only just one slide, and we have an exhaustive list. I just don't want to continue with these kind of adjectives, but we can have we can have a view at what a teacher needs to be. Now, if you look at this cartoon here, the doctor is telling something to the teacher. This is the teacher standing on the other side. The doctor is seeing is the heart is slightly bigger than the average human heart, but that's because you are a teacher. That shows that teachers always need to be magnanimous in their behavior, their attitude, and so on. So what we do is, when we look at the process of teaching, especially offline teaching, we go into the class and we start teaching, spend 1 hour, 55 minutes or whatever. But look at this cartoon, or look at this entire thing. I am teaching them, but are they learning? This is also something which is very important, because many times the students themselves get shielded. They have an umbrella over them where for various reasons they shun, or they shy off from this whole context of teaching. So it becomes a responsibility to finally realize that these umbrellas have to be removed, and finally what we are trying to deliver reaches them, and it helps them immensely. Okay, let's do an activity. We'll take maximum 2 minutes, and you can share your thoughts about it later on. Try to remember or list all the good teachers who have taught you till today and shaped your personality and made you what you are today. Okay, so you can do that. Maybe it was requested for you to have a notebook, so you can write them in a notebook, names in the notebook, or you can mentally map them. Just remember all the good teachers who have taught you till date. You can take about a minute or two to just recall. Yeah, I'll give you some time. Just remember. So maybe you can just enter the figure in the chat box. I'll be able to see the chat box. In case you want to share, you can always enter into the chat box the number which you have remembered. I don't want the names. I just want the number. How many teachers have influenced you and shaped your personality? What do you think? So right from your kindergarten to your post-graduation, or even maybe till research if you're doing, and so on. How many teachers? So I have a wonderful number here, that is 18, which is quite high. Somebody has mentioned it as 5, somebody has mentioned it as 3, and so on. So, what is interesting here is, of course, 18 was the number which I saw. So we have 5, 8, 12, maybe maximum 15 people, 18 people you could recall. But what does research say? Research says that right from our kindergarten to our post-graduation and further, we are taught by about close to 120 teachers. Okay, and of those 120 teachers, you have remembered only maybe 8 or 12 or 15 or 18. So where did the others vanish? Wouldn't you love to be in that list? Tomorrow if somebody conducts a very similar exercise for your students, don't you want to be in that list? Oh, obviously you want to be in that list. So the point here is that one looks back with appreciation to brilliant teachers. You appreciate them, but with gratitude to those who touched our human feelings. So we need to be extremely humane. We are not here only to impart knowledge. There are so many other skills that need to be told to the students. They make the students imbibe them, inculcate them, follow them, and so on. So my wish is that later on, when your students spend some time after the college, maybe 5, 10 years down the line, when they come back to the college, they should come with an intention to first meet you, okay, and they'll meet other teachers also, no doubt, but they should have it in mind that, this is the person who has made me what I am. So that is what I mean by effective teaching. Yes, imparting technical knowledge is extremely important. You cannot miss out on that. But along with that, there are so many other attributes also. Now, how do we classify teachers? We come across, as I said, because you have remembered only about 18 teachers maximum, which I saw. How do we classify teachers then? Okay, so we have a mediocre teacher, an average teacher. Who tells? That their main intention is how do I enter into a classroom and how do I spend the next 55 minutes? That's all. Mediocre teacher tells, then a good teacher explains, when a superior teacher demonstrates, and many a times I still remember my English teacher, and when a poem had to be narrated, he used to come into the class narrating the poem with all kinds of actions. So it is something which is unforgettable. But a great teacher inspires. So our main duty is to inspire students, to do something fruitful in their life. And the special characteristics which we are going to focus upon today in today's discussion will be all these. So, an effective teacher is talented, energetic, ambitious, cheerful, humane, eloquent, and resourceful. So, these are the major, you could say, characteristics. And under these, you have so many. So when we touch upon each of them one by one, you'll understand how it's going on. For example, a teacher is talented. What do we mean by a talented teacher? What kind of a talent are we talking about here? So we say that talented teacher is trained, and this training is continuous. Train the trainers is a very common phrase which is used. So whenever see most of you are attending this kind of a session, this is nothing but a kind of a training which you are undergoing, and whatever little you learn out of this session and tomorrow's session, you are going to implement it in some way or the other. You are going to remember some points and implement it. So you are very skillful. Adept is skillful. Then a talented teacher is learned. See, the teaching can never happen without learning, and everyone actually. I keep telling this to students, colleagues, and everyone that you need to be a lifelong learner. You cannot stop learning at any point of time, saying that I have learned enough. No, it is definitely just not enough. And a talented teacher is equipped, takes questions, and is a lifelong learner, which I just mentioned. So, as far as possible, I suggest you undergo training and you keep learning as much as possible. Then we have an effective teacher is energetic. Energetic here, we are not talking about only the physical strength, the mental strength, moral strength, and so on. It has to be a blend of everything. Okay, so it so happens that we definitely remember a few teachers, when they come into the class, they stand at one single place. Okay, they say they never move around, and they never even make eye contact with a large number of students. This is not done. No, this cannot work, and such kind of teachers will not be remembered. So what you need to do is by your non-verbal communication, you need to move around a lot in the class, on the stage, and so on. So energy should ooze out from you when you are teaching. Then the teacher loves the profession. Teacher is hardworking. See, this hardworking that has to be conveyed to the students. Many a times, students think, or many people in the society, for that matter, think that teaching is a very simple profession. What is it? You go, you just conduct a lecture and come back and so on. But I'm sure all of you have by now understood how difficult it is and what kind of efforts you need to put in order to prepare for one lecture. Okay, so that hard work finally needs to be conveyed to the student also. Then they are high powered, confident, knows the subject, knows the audience. We should be aware of the audience also. I don't know. Since I was extremely happy when I saw the kind of participants for this webinar. We have right from Rajasthan to Telangana to so many other places. And I sincerely believe that any kind of a college, let it be any kind of a college, we will have different categories of students who will come to our class. Some of them may be from vernacular medium, some of them who are from a rural background, some of them who are not very conversant, very diffident, and so on. So when we enter into the class and start teaching, is it possible to stoop to the level of the lowest quality of the students? The high quality, the cream, we always say the cream always goes to, let's say, IITs, NITs, and so on. That is not necessary. I have seen students, and I'm sure all of you might have come across such students from your own college who can easily compete with students who have graduated from IITs, NITs, and so on. Okay, so it is just that how you have imparted, what kind of background they come from. So you should know your audience. Then energetic teacher prepares well, rehearses. Rehearsal is extremely important, especially for those who have maybe about 3-4 years of experience. Because I still remember my first lecture, and even my students of that batch remember how I was behaving in the class. We didn't have any FDPs or any such programs then. We just went to the college. They said you are appointed, and that from tomorrow you have to join. And tomorrow at this time you have your first lecture. That's it. There was no one to guide and so on. So when I prepared for about 3-4 pages, and I thought that okay, 3-4 pages is sufficient for 1 hour. I went into the classroom, and those 3-4 pages what I had prepared got over in about 35 minutes. So what to do for the next 25 minutes? And even while delivering that content, students could see my legs and my hands shaking, the kind of stage fear which I had. So all these can be overcome by good rehearsal, and many a times my own colleagues who have joined recently, or others from other departments, other colleges, they come up to me and ask, "Now, how do we rehearse?" So one is you can pick a group of your own colleagues, and who are not very critical, and not very they won't criticize you in the negative way, and make them sit and deliver a lecture in front of them. Uh, Much better will be maybe if you stand in front of a mirror and deliver a lecture. Many a times this is also a very common observation which we make, that all of us have very peculiar mannerisms, and we are not aware of it. Maybe in your school days or college days, I'm sure you also might have done. There are some teachers who have the habit of repeating a few words, like right, okay, and so on. So in a span of about 55 minutes, they would have used that word about 25, 30, 35 times. And we are very naughty then, and we used to keep marking them. How many times the teacher has repeated this word. So to avoid these kind of peculiar mannerisms, you can rehearse in front of a mirror. In case you have a facility, you can record your own lecture and then view it and see what are the plus points and what are the drawbacks which you can overcome. Then the energetic teacher is vibrant, then visualizes success. The prime concern is always to be successful. Nobody enters into a class with an intention that maybe about 70% of my students have to fail in the examination. Obviously not. So we always visualize success. We want 100% result. So keeping that in mind, we see that an effective teacher has to be energetic and is healthy. That is, the physical and mental health state is extremely good. Then, before we move on, if you have any questions, I can just till now whatever we have discussed, I can take about 2 or 3 questions and then move ahead. So maybe you can post the questions in the chat box. I can just go through one or two. Let's not spend too much time as of now, but later on we can do it.
Hello, Keru sir. Hello.
Unmute yourself, Anil.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Yeah, right.
I got 2 questions on YouTube live. Okay.
I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you clearly.
Is there any difference between a teacher and a professor?
There's actually no difference. There is no difference between teacher and the professor. These are only the grades which are made by the society. Anybody who imparts knowledge is a teacher. So, in fact, that is the reason why we use the term, let's say, adhyapak or guru and so on. Many a times it so happens that even we end up respecting school teachers more than a professor and so or vice versa and so on. So
Yes.
there's no such thing as a differentiation. This differentiation is made by the society
Okay.
because both are imparting knowledge only. Okay, that is the primary function. So
Yeah.
there's no such difference between a school teacher and a professor.
Okay. One more questions from Andhra is that is having a role model is mandatory? Yes.
Many a times, unknowingly, we pick somebody as a role model. Mandatory in the sense, it's not necessary that we make a conscious effort to hold a torch and start searching for role models. Okay, so role models automatically come. As I said, you can have any number of role models, and they can be anybody. I just gave the example of Radhakrishnan sir just because we all celebrate his birthday as Teachers' Day. But you can take your own school teacher, you can take your own college teacher as a role model. Just do some introspection and know what mannerisms, what qualities they had. Can I incorporate those qualities in my teaching and so on. Okay, so that is something which is very important. Okay, I have got another question in the chat box here. I'll address this and then continue with my discussion. What type of communication? This is from Dr. Anand Usmani. What type of communication should be there for new generation students? Uh, this present generation students are called as Gen X or Gen Y or whatever, and even though those students come from maybe convent background or good background and so on, they end up speaking in other kind of languages. Now, it is actually mandatory as teachers that we always communicate in English only. That is something which is very important. And communication in itself is a topic on its own. Hopefully, if most of you are interested and if you in your feedback tomorrow, we can have a webinar on communication itself because communication is again verbal and non-verbal. So both have to be addressed in front of the students because they're observing you, and when we talk about talking to the students, just because we hold a position, just because we are at a slightly higher level, we can't boss around over them. And, see, there is a very thin line which we need to draw between treating the students as friends and as students only. Okay, so there can be an occasion where we can treat them as friends. There can be informal communication, discussion, and so on. But the decorum has to be maintained. When you enter into a classroom, the decorum of the classroom has to be maintained. That definitely cannot be violated by any student. Okay, so
Okay. Thank you, sir. I have one more question.
yes,
I
yes,
think it's from a person who has recently joined
okay.
to this profession. He says, how should we encourage questions
Uh,
during the lecture or after the lecture?
could you please repeat the question because I didn't hear it clearly.
How should we encourage questions during the lecture or after the lectures from the students?
Okay, this because when we were discussing about one of the characteristics of teachers, how to take up these questions from the students. One thing is these days students hardly ask any questions. I'm sure all of you know about it, and there can be various reasons for that. But at the beginning of the class, you can make it clear based on what content has to be covered that day and how much time you are about to spend. That you are ready to take the questions once the class is over. But sometimes it so happens that when in the process of teaching something, suddenly there is a doubt, and maybe that doubt may not remain in the mind of the student till the end of the lecture. So the student is very restless in order to ask that question. So what you can do is under such circumstances you can just ask the student to raise the hand. Okay, and whatever you are discussing, you finish that and immediately take up that question. because encouraging questions itself is a big task for teachers these days. So it is either way. Students don't ask questions, and teachers also don't ask any questions these days in the class. Okay. So there's another question: how to become good to great teachers? That is what you're doing now. I'm sure by tomorrow, hopefully you will realize whatever needs to be done in order to become a great teacher. Great teachers don't become great teachers overnight. Okay, there has to be a lot of effort one has to put. So even a good teacher, see, as long as you're a good teacher, you should be proud. Uh, People spend their entire lifetime in order to become a great teacher. Okay. So this is something which there is no elevator to become a great teacher. You have to take the stairs, and over a period of time, I'm sure if you have the willingness to become a great teacher, you will automatically incorporate, imbibe, and understand all those qualities, and you can transform yourself from a good teacher to a great teacher. Okay. Okay. Anyway, we'll have the discussions later again. So we'll continue with our discussion now.
Yes. 1 minute, sir. If you have any, if participants have any questions, they can go on posting on the chat box, both at WebEx and YouTube. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
You can continue, sir.
So the next quality or a characteristic of an effective teacher is ambitious. Now here, when we are talking about ambitious, there are two aspects to it. One is the personal ambition, and the second one is the ambition in the form of grooming the students. Personal ambition can be, nobody wants to be stagnant. When you maybe join as an assistant professor, over a period of time, you expect there are some time frames. So by this time I want to become associate professor, and by this time I want to become maybe a professor, then a reader and a principal, and so on. No, but there is no limit to this kind of an ambition, which is fair enough. Everyone should have ambition. But one thing you need to remember is please don't be over ambitious, because this is a very slow process. Teaching itself is a very slow process, and the growth is very slow, and there's absolutely no running away from upgrading your skills and knowledge. As long as you can upgrade your even your degrees and your qualifications, I'm sure over a period of time your ambitions will be achieved. But we have another side to this, flip side to this. That is, when I say effective teacher is ambitious in the form of grooming the students. So how do they groom the students? So they have high expectations from, or they tend to have high expectations from their students, that their students have to do well, and they are motivated to excel. They have the desire to succeed, then they have the determination, and then they decide to succeed also. So the desire, the determination, and the decision to succeed, these are the three most important characteristics. And they are positive. Positive is, see, many a times things don't work the way we want. So if some of you might have read a book by Shiv Khera, that is You Can Win, where he says that we cannot control the events that happen in our lives, but we can definitely control the way we react to them. Okay, so that is a part of actually emotional intelligence, which in very briefly I will be discussing later. So positive is, try to find out positivity in whatever happens. Okay. So this is something. See, even after putting in 29 years of more than 29 years of experience, I was not very confident about online classes or webinars and so on. But I said, let me give it a try. Otherwise, when am I going to learn? So it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of time also for me in order to reach a certain level where now I am sitting here and conducting a webinar. So there can be, you could say, unintentional, unwanted happenings all around us. But in that, we need to find out what is the best for us, how it suits us. So an effective teacher is ambitious. So this ambition is, please take it from a student's point of view. Okay, then an effective teacher is cheerful. Now, what do we mean by cheerful? this is again a kind of an observation which we have made. When we enter into a class, I'm sure students have a very peculiar knack, no, wonderful knack of understanding what is the mental status of the teacher. Now, if you enter into a class with a grim face, then they immediately stop talking amongst themselves. Something has gone wrong either in the department, or he or she has had a fight with the spouse, or something, so some kind of a tension. So it's actually very important for us to differentiate between professional and personal life. Of course, it is easier said than done. People say that you should never carry your work home, you should not do this, not do that, and so on. But things are not that easy. I'm sure that all of us have realized that whether we like it or not, some of the work has to be carried home, and so on. So cheerful is, we also talk about humor, fun, and so on. So you can see there are so many things. And when we say cheerful, humorous and happy, clean, well dressed, social lubricant, that is, mixes with everyone. There is absolutely no point in not mingling even with juniors. This I have seen in a couple of cases where just because a person has reached a certain level, he or she will not talk to a newly joined faculty or something like that. No, we are all, after all, doing the same job, and we are all human beings. So, social lubricant is where you can understand that you create a society with a lot of harmony. Then they enhance communication, they help you appear human. This is something which is extremely important. Please make it a point every time that everyone needs to be treated as a human being, right from, let's say, a menial staff to the principal or director. Everyone, they are all putting in their efforts in their own way in order to make the whole process run. Then they make class enjoyable. And later on, maybe in tomorrow's session, we'll be also just touching upon this, that as human beings, and more so as students, generally we have over 20 minutes of focused attention. Okay, so after 20 minutes, our mind starts getting diverted. So, how do we bring back everything on track? So what can be done is related to the topic itself, or something which interesting, very, very interesting, which you have read in the newspaper that day morning, or some such thing. You can discuss. You break the ice again. You take a pause and spend about 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, in discussing something else, wherein everyone will suddenly become alert. All the students will become alert, and then even if you give them a task for that matter, and you can bring the attention of all the students back on track. And no sarcasm. No sarcasm is, you can be humorous, but not in the. It is always well said that humor is most enjoyed when you do it on yourself. Okay, so laugh at yourself. There is nothing wrong. But don't pick any particular student in a class and taunt them, or just for the sake of breaking the ice and make everyone laugh. Don't target any particular student. Okay. So this is something which is extremely important. Uh, I have been asked many a times about questions like, can we tell jokes in the class? Okay, so this is a very important question. Now, you can tell jokes in the class. There's no doubt about it. But as long as it is well taken, and there is no kind of, let's say, obscenity or vulgarity or any such thing. Something which is, if it is related to the topic what you're discussing, it is still better. But you cannot suddenly stop in between and say, okay, now I'll tell you a joke. That also doesn't work. So keep the entire, you could say, mood and this thing in the classroom upbeat and happy and cheerful. Now, it is hard for people to disagree with you when you are smiling. Uh, you can enter. That is why I said you can enter into a class with a smile on your face, and then later on you can become serious and start delivering the lecture, and in between again smile if there is a question or if there is something which you have missed out. See, we all make mistakes, when we are writing on the board, when it is chalk and duster kind of teaching, we all make mistakes. Something gets missed out, or instead of putting a negative sign, we put a positive sign, and we go wrong in the units and so on. There is some student who corrects us, and we should never get angry. They say you should actually appreciate. You should say, "Oh, I somehow missed out on this." So when you smile, it is very very hard for people to disagree with you. Okay, then we have a quality called as humane. What is the meaning of this humane? One of the most important ingredient of humane is being compassionate. Okay, so for example, an effective teacher is very gentle and friendly, compassionate, understanding, supporting, and most important, forgiving. These have been our experiences also, and I keep my fingers crossed, and I hope that none of you do it. Never be of that type where you keep a grudge on the students, because students are after all students, and at some point of time we were also students. It's not that we have become a professor just like that. So we have undergone all those stages and come at this level. So during our maybe you could say learning days, it might have happened that somebody might have kept a grudge on us, and we have felt very bad about it. So let's not be revengeful. Let's not follow that path. We have to be forgiving. Students will make mistakes. In fact, we also make mistakes. There's no doubt, as I said. But students will make mistakes. It becomes our responsibility to not only correct them but tell them what is the right path. So all this comes under forgiving, and what do we mean by supportive? Many a times they come up with either difficulty, or they come and say, no, sir, I want to participate in this kind of a conference. I want to go here, go there, extracurricular activities, and so on. Now, looking at the gravity of the situation, you need to be supportive. Suppose if the exams are approaching, you can always tell them that this is not the right time. And if there is some leisure time, that is the inner feeling. And if you are compassionate, all other things will automatically follow. So students should be assessed based on performance and not on personality. Okay, that means no teacher's pet. It generally happens, when we enter into a class, or in a group, we end up liking someone. When I say liking, it's just because of their behavior or their politeness. Okay, so you can see this cartoon here. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam and look at the question. Please climb that tree. So you can see who are the participants there, and there is a fish in an aquarium. How can you expect it to climb the tree? We have an elephant and a penguin and so on. So this is exactly what happens even in a class. We have students coming from all kinds of backgrounds. So when we are doing assessment, we need to have a very fair kind of assessment. Now, when you don't have anyone as your pet, or when you don't, let's say, show sympathy to one or two people in the class, then others will automatically feel, okay, this teacher is very fair, and there's no partiality being done, and so on. So we need to be as impartial as possible. Then an effective teacher has to be eloquent. Eloquent is learned and everything that comes under the umbrella of knowledge. Okay, so we see that an effective teacher has to be fluent. You can take a pause in between. You can maybe stop for a while and so on. But when something is being delivered, you cannot stand there, with such a pause and scratching your head, with having forgotten something and so on. That shows that you are unprepared for the class. So eloquent means, being fluent, being communicative, expressive. See, as I have mentioned, communication itself has two types. It has got two categories, that is verbal and non-verbal. In fact, non-verbal communication plays a major role than verbal communication, because our gestures, our facial expressions, and our mannerisms are more dominant in the class rather than what we speak. If we keep an eye on all of these, I'm sure our communication, that is oral communication, will automatically fall in place. Then we have to be very clear, pleasant. This is also something which we have come across, and I have been discussing, without taking any names. There are teachers, who are excellent teachers. Knowledge-wise, they are unbeatable. They are supreme. However, what happens is, when they enter into a class, the tone is so small, so less, or so this thing, that maybe after the first 3 or 4 rows, the last benchers cannot hear. Now, this creates a problem actually. Okay, so the clarity, the tone, the intonation, and you can also talk about the voice modulation and the volume. Everything plays a major role. So all these characteristics come under what we call as being eloquent. Then the final this thing is being resourceful. But before that, you can see, when I talked about fluent, communicative, and so on. Are you the new English teacher? Okay, so yes, I are. That itself shows that the teacher or whoever is there in the cartoon is not well versed with English at all. So this is something which is unacceptable. Making the grammatical mistakes and making spelling mistakes when we are writing something on the board. All these things are not acceptable, and these are the things. These are the faults which students keep in their mind and discuss later on. There is also a saying, for example, if you have a goalkeeper in football, nobody will remember how many goals the goalkeeper has saved. So everyone will remember only how many goals he has missed. Similarly, you may have all the characteristics. You may be an excellent teacher, but somewhere, at some point of time, suddenly you commit a mistake. Those mistakes will get highlighted. They tend to get reflected over a period of time. Then an effective teacher, before going into resourceful, I'll spend some time on communication, because this is something that is extremely important. Now, in communication, we say that an effective teacher has to be a very good listener. The reason is, when we take questions from the students, or when we talk to our superiors, or talk to our subordinates, we should not assume something immediately and react. Okay, so we need to have patience, wait till the other person completes, and then respond. So listening is one of the important key ingredients of communication. Then an effective teacher who is communicative speaks very clearly. They mind their words and tone. Now, words play a major role. This is something again which even my students and so many other people come up to me and ask, "Sir, how do we improve our vocabulary?" Vocabulary again is something that you don't have to sit with let's say a GRE book or English book or Wren and Martin grammar book and so on, and go through it. It definitely will not work that way. The only way you can improve your vocabulary is by reading and reading, and of course along with that, if you get time, you can view good English news channels and so on. But you have to be very, very careful in the selection of the words and the tone in which you use them. Okay. So both of them go hand in hand, and if there is a sentence, on which word of that sentence you give more weightage, that will give a different meaning to that sentence altogether. then they maintain eye contact. See, maintaining eye contact is a reflection of your confidence level. And where does this confidence come from? Confidence comes from one is preparation, how well versed you are with your subject, and the second one is communication. So you have to focus on these two parameters primarily. Now, again, there are instances where I have seen teachers who come into the class, they don't make any eye contact with any of the students. They will be blindly, looking at infinity or some wall or something and delivering their lecture. So that itself shows that they are lacking confidence or there is some problem. And they always, that is, effective teachers will always remember the 6 C's of communication. What are the 6 C's of communication? They are courteous. Courteous is very soft in their approach. They are concrete. Even though they are soft, they are very concrete and stern in their actions. Concise. Concise is, if a point is to be told, I'm sure all of you have come across such kind of teachers or even friends for that matter. There'll be a very, very small incident that has to be narrated, but they consume an entire hour in order to do that. Right from the beginning, they tell you the entire story, and you may not have the patience. So, concise is being to the point. Then correctness, obviously we cannot tell wrong things in the class. Clarity in terms of enunciation and intonation, pronunciation, and so on, as well as clarity of thoughts and completeness. Many times it happens with all of us that when we come out of the class and then we go back to our room or our personal space, we suddenly remember, oh my God, this was also to be told to the class and I forgot and so on. So completeness is also equally important, where we can make notes or where we can prepare in such a way that nothing is left uncovered. Of course, we will have an opportunity to tell that in the next class, but maybe it would have been more relevant if we had told it in that class only. So completeness is also equally important. Now, what are the communication goals? Okay, so communication goals in general, whenever we talk about communication, are all these things. Why do we communicate? We communicate to get action, to ensure understanding, then to persuade, to get and give information, and to change behavior. And this is what we all do day in, day out. Okay, so whenever we communicate, not only with our students, but with anyone in the society, it will be either one of these or a combination of these. So these are the communication goals which we need to remember. For example, persuasion. Persuasion is off late. We get let's say a telephone call, or earlier there used to be let's say some LIC agents and so on. They want to sell they want to sell a LIC policy to you. You should see the kind of persuasion which they are involved. They'll tell you everything, each and everything, and persuade you so much and try to convince you that you can buy that policy. So that was just an example, but normally those who belong to the marketing department have these persuasion skills. Then to get and give information is what we do to ensure understanding and to change behavior is something which is extremely important. Now, to change behavior is, I was talking about it earlier, that we are going to influence the attitude of the student. So, for example, parents communicate with their children to change their behavior. They give instructions. Sometimes they get angry. Sometimes they take them on their lap and tell something and so on. So that is basically to change behavior. So all these are nothing but the communication goals. Now the last one is an effective teacher is resourceful. Now, what do we mean by resourceful? Effective teacher is creative, original, imaginative. Of course, this word, I'm sure those who are doing research, those who have already completed the research, or those who are planning to do the research, this word you will never forget, that is plagiarism. Okay, so plagiarism is nothing but one is of course originality, and the second one is if you have used somebody else's result or work or something like that, then you need to acknowledge. If there is no acknowledgement, it leads to plagiarism. You can't claim it as your own original work. But in teaching, you can do that. You can. It's not necessary that every day you go to the class, with notes or textbook or duster, chalk, and so on. On some days, you can just go without anything and deliver a lecture, uh, which will create a kind of an impression in the minds of the students that okay, the teacher is so well read and well versed that no aids are required. So creativity, originality, then you have to be imaginative, intelligent, sensible. We need to understand. Sometimes in a classroom, we get instant feedback. For example, now this is exactly what is happening. Since I'm not able to see any one of you, I don't know what is going through your mind. In the sense, what kind of reaction is coming. But in offline teaching, when we enter into a class and when we start teaching, just by looking at the faces of the students, we will be able to understand and get an immediate feedback that they are understanding the concept, they are not understanding the concept, or they have a question. All these things. So we have to be sensible to understand these intricacies and small things which are there. Now, for example, you stand in front of a class, and when I say you need to be creative and there has to be a lot of originality. And as a teacher, if I use this sentence, for example, that I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers who will do exactly as I say. Okay, so this is a very funny quote. When you want others to do as you say, then how can they be independent? Or how can they be innovative? That is just impossible. So there has to be some freedom which needs to be given to the students. Then there is something called as transactional analysis, which comes under the concept of psychology. So very briefly, I'll be touching about this transactional analysis, because in order to answer that question, somebody had asked me how to become a great teacher from a good teacher. One of the ways is, when you understand transactional analysis, I'm sure you can do it. So the next two slides will be very interesting. We talked about something called as the PAC model. Okay, so all our behavior, you pick anyone, be it the students, be it your spouse, be it your parents, be it anyone in the society, they fall under this category of PAC. And what is this PAC? Let's see what's this PAC. So PAC stands for P stands for parent, A stands for adult, and C stands for child. Now, how is a parent normally looked upon? A parent is thought to be more aggressive, okay, in behavior, while an adult is more assertive, and a child is supposed to be submissive. Of course, maybe in the current generation, children are no longer submissive, but still we assume that a child is submissive. The reason is here, when we are talking about this PAC model, we are not talking about the age. When we use terms like parent, adult, child, and so on, we are not talking about the age here. We are talking about the mental status. Okay, so people can be categorized as somebody who is aggressive. Again, when we talk about, let's say, leadership styles, most of you might have come across this, that leaders are autocratic, democratic, and free reign or laissez-faire leaders. Now, what do we mean by autocratic? Autocratic leaders are very aggressive. Just by looking at their body language, you'll come to know that they are very aggressive. They have this habit of thumping the table, pointing fingers, raising their voice, and so on. Very calm and composed in their behavior, while a child is supposed to be submissive, who are ready to take orders. That is what we need here. So these are the three most important ego states, and these ego states define the mental status. Now, based on this PAC model, we will have different kinds of behaviors when we interact. Have you ever thought, you can pause for a minute and think, why do, let's say, arguments happen? Why do fights happen? Or these kind of unwanted things happen? Now, this happens basically because what I'm going to show in the next slide. That is, we have a mental status. Suppose I'm talking to somebody and my mental status as well as the mental status of the other person is, I'm okay, you are okay. I'm thinking on this line and the other person is also thinking on this line. Then what kind of an interaction will happen, do you think? The interaction is going to be extremely smooth. It is going to be very, very matured, assertive and matured. So in fact, we want the first quadrant, I call this as the first quadrant, this kind of an interaction to happen not only in a classroom but in our day-to-day lives also. So everywhere, if we move on with a feeling that I am okay, you are okay, and the other person also should feel the same, because just we feeling I am okay and you are okay is not sufficient. What about the other person? How the other person for you there is somebody else as the other person, and for somebody else you are the other person. So that somebody else should also think on these lines only. That is, I am okay, you are okay. Then the things will start moving in a very, very matured way, and there can be no argument, there can be no fights. Everything will be very harmonious the way we want it. Now we have another thing where suppose my mental status is I am okay and you are not okay. Okay, so we were talking about aggressiveness. So autocratic leaders generally tend to be like this. I am okay, you are not okay. Whatever I do is correct, and whatever you are doing is not correct. This is the kind of behavior or transactional analysis which can happen. Now, when we have this kind of a scenario, I am okay, you are not okay, then this can also result in fights. So this behavior is called as aggressive and egoistic. Then the third quadrant is representing I am not okay, you are okay. Okay, we do come across such kind of people also. I am not okay, you are okay, where people keep complaining all the time. Everything that is happening to you is good and everything that is happening to me is bad. So such people tend to be more submissive and pessimistic in their approach. We don't want people or interactions or transactions to happen in this quadrant also. And finally, we have something which is extremely dangerous. That is, I am not okay and you are not okay. So only God can save them. Off late, during this pandemic and close down and so on, we have been coming across so many news items, so many such things where people are taking the wrong path. Okay, that is essentially because of this kind of a behavior. Nothing is going their way and nothing is going the other's way also. So I'm not okay, you are not okay. This is something which has to be completely avoided. You cannot go into that category at all. So this is all about transactional analysis, which if we remember that we need to fall in the first quadrant, I'm sure slowly over a period of time, you can change your behavioral style and become a great teacher. So these are the general qualities where an effective teacher has the courage to dream, the thirst for knowledge, because we are all lifelong learners. Everyone has to be a lifelong learner, but it is more so in the case of teachers. We need to be lifelong learners. There is a thirst for knowledge. Then there is a passion to excel, the conviction to break free, the vision to build, the skill to achieve, and the character to inspire. So when we were talking about a great teacher inspires, that inspiration that doesn't come just like that. You need to have that inbuilt, that character in you in order to inspire others. So these are the general, you could say, traits or characteristics which an effective teacher needs to have. Then we also need to remember a couple of important things. Now, what are these important things? The first important thing we see this kind of a competition every day, especially between a parent and a child. Most of the time, we see parents pestering their children. Not only their children when they are comparing with other children, their classmates, and so on. There is a tendency sometimes where parents compare between their own children. Okay, so this is it's not a rat race. Basically, for students as well as for ourselves, as long as we decide or we understand that we have to improve and the student has to improve, that is the end of the story. We don't have to worry about anything else. So it is not a rat race and we should neither push for it. Then we have to impress upon the students to compete with themselves. Oh, let's say there's a student who has scored about 60% or got a B grade in one semester. You need to tell that person that make it as a take it as a challenge. Make it a point to enhance your grade to maybe A in your next semester. Instead of telling, see, all your classmates are in A category and you are coming B category. Now the student will accept it and anyway, maybe I think I cannot do or I cannot go beyond this is the kind of feeling which the student may get. So instead of that, you can always motivate them because as I said, the communication is a topic on its own, motivation is a topic on its own. Whenever we talk about motivation, of course, there are innumerable theories of motivation right from Maslow's pyramid. We have Earth theory, existence, relatedness, and growth theory of motivation. We have valency theory, Bloom's theory, theory X and theory Y, motivation and hygiene theory. These theories are excellent to teach, but when we come down to the ground reality, sometimes we feel that none of these theories work. What is the theory? For example, I give this quote in the classroom. I always tell my students that I can take a horse to a pond, but I can never make it drink water. Okay, so you can understand this is motivation. I can take a horse to a pond, but I can never make it drink water. When will the horse drink water? The horse will drink water only if it is thirsty. Otherwise, it's not going to drink water at all. Then another style of motivation which we can follow or which even companies, corporates, everywhere they follow. I call it as the carrot and stick theory. What motivates people? Okay, so carrot stands for a reward and stick stands for a punishment. So we can have carrot and the stick theory of motivation. These are the two important points which we can remember other than Maslow's hierarchy needs and no Earth theory of motivation and so on. There are so many theories of motivation. Yes, wonderful theories, but we can conclude finally and put all of them in a nutshell, saying that it is either going to be carrot and stick theory, or it is something like taking a horse to a pond and trying to make it drink water. Now, when we do this, when we motivate the students, when we tell them that you can do much better than what you are actually doing now, then a tickle of excellence slowly, as I said, on working with emotional intelligence. And of late, of course, there is a new concept which is emerging, which is called a social intelligence. Both are equally important, emotional intelligence and social. Then what comes to our mind is when I say, okay, so this person is highly emotional, what comes to our mind is that person gets either irritated or angry very easily, or the person suddenly starts crying and so on, which is not actually true. Emotional intelligence basically means not being overly emotional, sympathetic, or weak. In fact, it means being fully self-aware, accountable, assertive in one's action. So, for example, let's say I'm driving a car and somebody overtakes me in a very wrong way, in a very rash manner. So what will be my reaction? My reaction is I start shouting at that person and I abuse that person and do all these kind of things. But in the process, the person who has overtaken me would have gone. That person would not have heard anything at all. So I am in fact troubling myself because I am not able to control my emotions. So no, it has happened. I know it has happened, but nothing can be done now. So this is taking charge. We talk about taking charge and controlling things. Then emotional intelligence also means that we have to be aware of others' emotions and what is driving them. This, as a teacher, this is most important because we really don't know what a student has undergone either in their past part of the journey or on that particular day when he or she comes to a class. What has happened, we actually don't know. And all our actions are many a times dependent on our experiences. So based on the experiences, we generally tend to react. Sometimes it may so happen that suddenly, in a class, somebody may behave in a very erratic manner, and we have not in the sense we may not be able to handle it properly because we don't understand what it means. So somebody has requested for an annotation. Please remove that said. It's okay. I can't. Okay. Okay. Just a minute. ಏನ್ ಬರೋದು? Just 1 minute. I think there's some problem. Somebody asked for an annotation and
ಇದು ಕ್ಯಾಮೆರಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿ
allowed to no, but it's not moving. The slides are not moving forward because somebody has. I don't know. Mute करो सबको. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think there was a small hiccup which we had to go through, and finally. We as teachers, we need to be innovative thinkers, leaders, and people who want to be accountable for their own success. Obviously, unless and until we take control of everything, it won't work. Okay. So again, what we'll do is we will have a nice breaker. In case there are any questions, you can again put it in the chat box, and I'll try to answer to those questions.
ಹೆಡ್ಫೋನ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾವು. ಯೂಸ್ ಹೆಡ್ಫೋನ್.
I'll be able to get questions only from Cisco. So if anyone from Cisco wants to ask any questions, you are free to do that. I'll try to get the questions from YouTube. Just a minute.
Hello. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I got a lot of questions, but for this, I will take 2 or 3 from this. Okay. So one question I got from Professor Nilesh is having a good gesture and posture really important for a teacher?
Could you please give it to me in writing? Give me the thing. I couldn't hear you.
Is having a good gesture and posture is really important for a teacher. It is on Cisco WebEx.
If I'm not wrong, is having a good posture necessary?
Yes.
Okay. I think this is something which is extremely relevant and a very good question also, because whenever we talk about non-verbal communication, many a times we are able to read somebody's mind just by looking at them. So when you go and stand in a class, your gestures play a major role. It is extremely important to have a very pleasing type of gestures. As I said, you can have a smile on your face, but it's not mandatory that you keep smiling all the time. Similarly, there are occasions where, let's say, male faculty, when they go, they stand with their hands on their hips, or they put their hands in their pockets and so on. No, they actually convey a meaning. If, as I said, if anyone is interested, we can also have that this thing where non-verbal communication and its importance can be discussed. But please remember that non-verbal communication plays a major role in deciding what kind of a teacher you are. Because yes, there can be small grammatical flaws or other kind of flaws here and there. It doesn't matter. But if your non-verbal communication or gestural ways of talking to others is bad, then it will send a very wrong signal and a bad signal. Okay? So please take care about it.
Dr. Shivanjanu, in teaching profession, which feedback is more important for a good teacher? Is it from feedback from student, or it is a feedback from higher authorities?
Can you come again? I don't know. It's getting broken. Unmute and hold it to unmute. Don't mute it again. I'm not able to hear you completely.
Can you hear now?
No, I'm not able to hear. Yeah. No, you can write it on a piece of paper and give it to me.
Is teaching a profession which feedback is important for a good teacher? It is a feedback from student or a feedback from higher authorities?
Okay, this is something which we are always concerned with, especially at the time of increment. Especially at the time of promotion. Actually, to be sincere, I wanted to avoid answering these kind of questions, but it's okay. I think it's quite relevant also. The first and the foremost thing is maybe always keep it in mind that we will not work for positive feedback. In the sense, we are not putting an effort just because we want a positive feedback. We are putting an effort because the learnability index should go high, in the students. I think, over a period of time, as time progresses, feedback from the student will be more important than feedback from the higher ups, because generally students don't lie. That is the first thing. If you keep it anonymous, Second thing is taking the feedback after the student passes out is more important. Once they come back after their graduation, undergraduation, when they come back, you can informally take feedback from the students, and it should be very meaningful. You are not taking the feedback just because you want to know more about what happened during the college days and so on. It's because you want to improve yourself. Because here we are talking about self improvement. But unfortunately, what happens is many a times this feedback is packed with so many other things. Okay, so not only we need to be good teachers in the classroom, there are so many other things also which, as a teacher, multiple roles we have to play. Maybe we need to conduct a DP program, or we need to attend conferences, we need to publish a paper, we need to do this. All this forms a part of feedback from the higher ups or the higher authorities. So for general growth, when we talk about general growth in terms of a financial aspect, then feedback from higher authorities is also equally important. But for a personal growth and to become a good teacher, then I would suggest the feedback from the students will play a major role rather than feedback from the higher ups, because higher ups will also be taking the feedback about you from the students without your knowledge. Please remember one thing. We may not be aware of it, but they will be talking to the student also. Okay. So,
One more last question, sir. What is important?
it's true that students fill the feedback without any interest, or just like that they make comments and so on. But we also need to look at what percentage of students do it. Okay, so I just give thing.
Good afternoon, sir. I have a question.
One more last question, sir. What is important? IQ or EQ?
I'll answer that. There was a question from some participant on the mic. Okay, so if you can please allow that person to ask the question, I can answer that and then get back to this.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I am Aparanjani from Andhra Pradesh. I have a question, sir.
I'm unable to hear you. Please, could you repeat?
Sir, am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Sir, I am Mrs. Aparanjani from Andhra Pradesh, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. You can continue. In between there are breaks, but hopefully I'll be able to hear you.
Okay, sir. My question is, which skill make the teacher the best? For example, teaching between teaching skills or subjective knowledge. Which one makes the teacher the best?
You can never be a good teacher if you don't have subject knowledge. That is what I started in the beginning. That is, subject knowledge is the most important thing, because when we go into a classroom and if we cannot deliver the right content, then it is meaningless. It does not carry any weightage at all. So we cannot just beat around the bush and give wrong information to the students. So content is really important. There is no doubt about it. Because that's what I said. See, I have come across situations where classes are conducted in the local language. We are all surprised, but the classes are conducted in the local language. Nothing wrong with that, as long as most of the students agree upon it, or they say okay to it. But the content of whatever is being delivered has to be crisp, has to be crystal clear and correct. There is no question about it. In order to excel further, then these are the traits which we can incorporate and inculcate in our day-to-day lives, so that we finally become good teachers and well appreciated by everyone. I hope I have answered your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. There was one more question. I don't know if somebody had posed it. Which is more important, IQ or EQ? Now, we keep talking about intelligence quotient and emotional quotient these days. And again, intelligence quotient is something which is largely hereditary in the sense we are born with it. We may not be able to do much manipulations with our intelligence quotient. So once in a while, for example, we read in the newspaper that somebody at the age of maybe 10, 12 completed graduation, they became doctorate at the age of 15 and so on. But how many such cases do we come frequently? One-off case. This is by fluke. We call it as fluke. So IQ is important, of course. There's no doubt about it. But unfortunately, we are born with it. We can't do much about it. We can put in hard work, more efforts in order to increase your intelligence quotient. But more than that, these days a lot of emphasis is being given on emotional quotient. The reason being, there are so many such instances where a topper has not, I don't want to use the term done well in life, but has not reached that level where other classmates of his or hers who were average, who were moderate in their college days, how they excel. That is because probably they are emotionally more stable. Their emotional quotient is high. They know how to discuss with people, how to talk to people, how to do it, and so on. Okay, so that is something which is more important. Um, there, as I said, when we were discussing about feedback, there are a few more questions where the modalities and the valuation being done is not proper, or how, what do you have to say about it, and so on. See, these are extremely personal matters because what kind of a mode is used, methodology is used, will be left to the organization. So we may not have a say in that. But if you can, sit down and frame excellent questions, I think, and convince the authorities to follow it, that will be something which is very good. Now, there was another very nice question: how to overcome negative motivation from colleagues. Okay, this is something which happens day in day out because when we as teachers look upon others, not exactly as role models, but as colleagues, and if they tend to demotivate us, one of the ways is you keep your foot down and be very strong and say that no, this is what I'm going to do. This is I'm doing it with conviction, and I have full faith in what I'm doing. That is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is stay away from such people because negativity is something which spreads very quickly. So it is always better to stay away from people who try to spread the negativity. So if you, on a personal note, can transform them from negativity to positivity, well and good. If you can do it, wonderful. There is nothing like it. But in case you cannot do it, then I would suggest just stay away from them and move on with your own life. Okay, so I think we have had enough questions. We will move ahead and try to quickly conclude the session. So Einstein had said that it is the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. So we have been talking about creativity on one side and knowledge on the other side. And creativity is going to come into picture only when we give enough freedom to our students. So, I keep talking and discussing with so many people, and once in a while, when I talk to our head of the department and others, I say that a stage should never come when, suppose, let's say, in a school or somewhere, somebody is required to write an essay on a particular topic. It should never so happen that all the 60 or 40 essays in a class are the same. Okay, that means that we have completely snubbed the creativity in the class. All of them tend to follow, what you say, which is not a good sign, in that context. Similarly, another saying which I loved was, 20 to 40 years from now, depending on, of course, how much experience you are left with, it will not matter what my bank balance was, the sort of house I lived in, or the kind of car I drove, but the world may be different because I was important in the life of a child. That is, without our knowledge, we are actually influencing the students every day. And, later on, if they come back and tell you that it was you who changed my life, there can be nothing more rewarding than that. Then finally, the 10 commandments for effective teaching, self-motivation, as I said, it is again easier said than done, but we have to find ways and means of keeping ourselves motivated all the time. Then understand the importance of our role as a teacher and totally commit ourselves to the notion that desire to learn is an innate human characteristic. That is, everyone wants to learn. Okay, that is a major difference between Homo sapiens, that is humans, and other species, where fortunately or unfortunately we are provided with a higher notch of intelligence. Then no, teaching cannot occur in the absence of learning. That is what I said. Maybe later on, at some point of time, I can also share what to be read. Because these days it is very confusing. What kind of novels or fiction, what do we need to read? The best thing is start with a newspaper in the morning, English newspaper in the morning. That is the best thing. One is your language will improve. The second one is your information will improve. The amount of information what you have. And remember that the most important characteristics of a good teacher are being caring, enthusiastic, and respectful towards all the students. Students are students, no doubt about it, but it does not mean that we need to disrespect them or behave in a demeaning way with them. And make sure our students know why we are doing the things which we do and what they are also doing. So here I'm talking about the efforts which we put in. As teachers, I'm 100% sure that all of us put in tremendous efforts, because we want to be successful. We want to come out from our class with a feeling of happiness and contentment. So the students have to somehow come to know that this teacher puts in a lot of efforts. Then we have make sure that we are teaching in a way that is truly relevant to the needs and interests of our students. Continually remind ourselves that everything we do should enhance learning. In the students, there has to be an improvement. I also tell my first year students whenever we have some induction program or something like that, I talk to my newly joined students that after 4 years, if you look back and if you feel that you are still the same, then there is no value addition that has been done. And it is somewhere where we have failed miserably. There has to be value addition. There has to be a complete turnaround in their personality, in their intelligence, in their approach towards life, how they go about it, and so on. So all that has to be kept in mind. Then continually engage in the practice of reflective teaching. Reflective is again nothing but feedback only, where we reflect upon what improvements can be done in order to become a great teacher, and always make sure that we and our students are having a fruitful time in the teaching learning process. Never ever should we have it in mind. This is something which I loathe the most, I hate the most. In case I find someone doing it, where the only intention of entering the class is somehow to spend 55 minutes or 1 hour and then get out of the class as quickly as possible. This is not done at all. This is something which is not acceptable at all. The moment you have decided to go and give a lecture, then there are a lot of preparations that need to be done, and that is something which we should think about. So it is the teacher that makes the difference and not the classroom. Okay, so many times we may have this habit of sometimes we may complain that this is not right, that is not right, and so on. As long as we are right, everything else will fall in place. Yeah, classroom. It is true that teacher is the most important, you could say, tool. Classroom is also equally important to some extent, but you can always overcome it. So teacher is going to be the most important. So aspire to be an effective teacher simply because you are planting the students' future. Okay, so you always need to tell the students, keep reminding them that you are the future. You are going to carry the baton and be responsible, carry the responsibility of this nation. So you have to become responsible citizens. And how to become responsible? Just by getting a rank to the university or just by getting some good laurels is not sufficient. There are so many other things also that needs to be done. Okay, so finally, our intention has to be that we are creating such class of students, such batch of students who are intelligent, who are very responsible, who are caring towards the society, who are responsible towards the society, and they become good leaders as well as they understand how important it is to the nation. Okay. So this is the slide for today for my presentation. So you must be the change you wish to see in the world. Many a times we want so many changes to happen. But before those changes happen, it is important that first we change ourselves. So once we change ourselves, then we can have that courage to change others and others. So this is all about presentation and I hope it was interesting as well as meaningful. I hope you could learn something about it at least. Okay, so we will again, as I said, before we finally conclude, take up a few more questions and then conclude. Maybe another 2 or 3 questions.
Sir, I have messaged all the questions on your chat box.
Yeah.
There are around 4 questions.
I'm unable to see the questions
Okay.
now.
First question is how to indulge vernacular medium students in present online classes.
Okay, this is maybe tomorrow we are going to have some discussion on this where we are going to be discussing about the challenges in online teaching. But as of now, what can be done is see whenever we talk about vernacular medium students, be it online classes, they always face difficult. So what we can do is see when we talk about online lectures, I don't know what exactly is the person who has asked this question, whether it is live sessions or whether it is uploading of recorded sessions. But what we see is we need to keep the language as possible. And also sometimes urge the students to maintain a kind of a dictionary or something. See, these days, if they are watching it on their smartphones, they can always download a very good dictionary. Okay, so it is important that they understand the meaning of a few words. Technical words, there is no escape. Suppose when we want to suppose a boiler, a boiler.
Okay.
So technical words will be using the same technical words, but other words when you are using other words, try to keep
Okay, I think
in communication that if you use hi-fi words, somebody is a very excellent communicator, which may not be true.
so
Shashi Tharoor, whenever Shashi Tharoor talks, most of the time we don't understand what he is talking. Okay, so no doubt what is the point if we cannot communicate, that's that the other person understands.
okay, sir. And another 3 questions, but I think some are related same. So I just tell you all the 3 questions. What do you say about valuation done for faculty in today's scenario?
This I think I have already answered because valuation done. This is a very personal question because the way in which teachers are being evaluated differs from one society to another society, one management to another management. So there's nothing like good or bad. Management will have their own or measurement standards.
Another is how to overcome the negative motivation from colleagues.
This also I have answered. How do we avoid negative motivation from colleagues? One of the best ways is avoid. Another way is, maybe what you can do is, if you can turn that person, if you have the courage, the motivation, the conviction to transform that person from negativity to positivity, wonderful, nothing like it. But if you can't do it, then it is best to stay away from negative people.
And how to improve the self-confidence?
I didn't hear you.
How to improve the self-confidence?
Okay. This is a very interesting feature because whenever we talk about self-confidence may be one single word, but you could say ingredients to improving self-confidence are many. Okay, so you can build your self-confidence in various ways, but a couple of things have to be true. You can be self-confident only when you are informative, that is, you have enough knowledge. You can be self-confident only when you have courage. You can be self-confident when you have very good communication skills. You can be self-confident when you are an excellent motivator. Okay, so these are the four important parameters that need to be remembered. So, if you can improve your knowledge level, if you can improve your communication level, if you can improve your courage level as well as your motivation level, then you can improve your self confidence.
Okay, sir. I have only.
I think we'll conclude now,
Yes.
and you need to give your attendance and all such things. So I'll stop for the day, and I look forward to meet you all tomorrow again, and take questions also. Online, offline teaching, there's one question which I can see, that part we'll be discussing anyway tomorrow, about concentration and what needs to be done to make online teaching successful. Okay. So, thank you, and thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.